Hello and welcome to another sound booth tutorial. I'm your host, Daniel Jason Booth. Today we're going to talk about increasing loudness. So today I wanted to talk a bit more conceptually about the idea of increasing loudness. Now, why, I hear you ask, would you want to talk about loudness in a world where mixers are getting slammed and, it's the very thing that people are trying to move away from? The reality is, I know some people that struggle with increasing the loudness of their mixers. It took me a long time to figure out the techniques that could help me increase the loudness of my mixers to the point that I was happy with them. Not to absolutely slam them, but to get enough volume. And when I say enough volume, I mean there's no compression pumping, there's no distortion, at least audible distortion, and you're reaching the loudness potential of your song. I understand from my own experience what it's like to be mixing something and really struggling to get it to that next level, to get it to a commercial level. And a lot of what I'm going to teach over the coming weeks will get you closer to what a mastering engineer can do. I still rely on a mastering engineer. Definitely with these techniques, you will get a lot closer to a mastering level, and I'll talk about strategies that you can use so that you can at least get things to their loudness potential. Where I think people go wrong is that they go beyond that potential and things start to incur artifacts, things become harsh, things become brittle. That's when I think you've gone past that loudness potential. I'm going to try and keep it pretty basic. There is no loudness without quiet. Dynamics plays a big role in that. When we're talking about loudness, we're usually talking about the intensity of sound. It's a perceived intensity. So when I think about loudness, what I'm generally considering is the peak to average level. So the loudness is the average level, essentially. Okay, why don't we just slam everything with a brick wall limiter? That'll chop the top off all those peaks. You're going to end up with something that doesn't sound like the original. You have to take various steps to get to your loudness potential. So the first technique relies on serial compression. If you haven't seen my video on serial compression, go and watch that now. I'll put a link up for you. Serial compression, as we understand it, is stacking compressors. That's at the track level. What if we extend that further? What if we've got a whole bunch of backing vocals and we're squeezing them down onto an aux track, okay, and we're controlling them all with that one aux track? We can compress them individually if we wanted to. Then we can further compress them at the aux level. Same thing for drums. You got all your drums. You might be compressing the snare drum, the kick drum, maybe compressing the whole lot individually, various amounts. And once you get to the aux track, you're squeezing it that little bit more. And when I say squeezing it, I mean you're reducing that peak to average level. At the track level, you might be taking the top off, and then you're reducing them a bit more on the aux track. And then when all of these tracks combine onto the mix bus, you'll be taking a bit more off of it as a group, off the whole mix. That's the general concept of using serial compression. If you think about it, if you sent all your tracks completely uncompressed to the mix bus, you'd be giving that compressor a hard time. And generally what would happen is, and this is why people run into trouble with the mix bus and mix bus processing when they're starting out, is that it's just getting slammed every time a kick drum comes along. It's not able to accommodate that in a way that's musical. The only way to accommodate it in a musical way is to squish everything just a little bit at the track level, at the aux level, okay, or group level, and then a little bit more at the mix bus. And so what you get is, it's a preservation of the original quality of the sound to a certain extent. You kind of pre-baking it, as Dave Pensato would say, doing a little bit of a squeeze, a little bit more of a squeeze, and then so oh God. In reality, you could do quite a big squeeze at the track level, and then at the group level I wouldn't squeeze so hard, and then when you get to the mix bus it would just be a matter of 1 or 2 decibels. Even sometimes that sounds too much. by knocking them down gradually, you retain the sense of the dynamics without the compression artifacts, and that's what we're trying to do here. So that's my first strategy for increasing loudness. If you can master that one alone, that will be quite a big step forward in reaching the loudness potential of your songs without introducing artifacts or compression pumping. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below and I'll do my best to answer them. As ever, happy mixing.